There are all kinds of people in this world. Did y'all know that? Is that the understatement of the year? There are all kinds of people in this world. There are all kinds of people in this room. There are all kinds of people in this pulpit, maybe. I'll talk about that with my therapist later. No, there are all kinds of people in this world. And God scatters his seeds of love on every one of them. That's what I got out of this parable. That's the punchline. There are all kinds of people in this world. And God wastefully scatters his seeds of love on every one of them. But the line, as I said before the service started, the line that really got my attention as I wrestled with this text this week is the opener. The first line, which says, "That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea." And I read those three words, "that same day." And I thought to myself, what the heck was that day? What else happened that day? And then it occurred to me, that's not just a transition sentence. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea. It is a transition sentence, but it's packed with meaning. It must be. Because if you say that same day, whatever comes after that is in response to the day. Does that make sense? So I thought, what in the heck happened that day? So I just looked. Chapter 12 in Matthew's Gospel is that day. Turns out a lot happened that day. Turns out Jesus dealt with all kinds of people that day. So I'm just going to give you a brief rundown of what happened that day. The day starts off and Jesus is walking through a field with his friends. They are hungry. They don't have any food. So just long story short, baby, they stole food from a field that was not their own. That's how his day started. Have you, hopefully not lately, but have you ever been in your life with one of your friends and they did something like that just was like, oh my gosh, he just did that? I don't know. Okay. After that, after his friends steal from the field, after that Jesus goes to church, well, the synagogue, but for us, church. And he runs into, right when he gets there, he runs into a man with a withered hand. Now, he can handle that. But it's not your run-of-the-mill morning. I mean, that's a thing. He runs into goes to his church and runs into a man with a withered hand. What does Jesus do? Well, you know what he does. He heals the man. But it was on the Sabbath. And turns out the rules of his day said you may not heal on the Sabbath. So the people who were in charge of enforcing that rule saw that Jesus broke the rule, and they decided they wanted to what? Kill him. Now, I happen to think that's a bit of an overreaction, but it was a part of his day. Such is life. They want to kill him. We haven't even gotten to our morning snack yet, much less lunch. This is how the day is going. Now, when Jesus heard that the people who enforced the rules wanted to kill him, he moved on. Jesus doesn't stick around and fight. He counsels us not to stick around and fight. What does he always tell us? Shake the dust off your feet and move on. So he moved on. And he told the people around him who were traveling with him, the disciples and a few other friends, that they should probably keep a low profile for the next few days because these folks want to kill him. That's what he said to them anyway. I don't think they heard that. I don't think they got the message, because right after Jesus told his friends they needed to lay low, do y'all know what they did? They brought to Jesus a guy who was demon-possessed. Now, if you are trying to lay low, don't hang out with people who are demon-possessed. They tend to draw attention to themselves. This is in the text. This is what happened that same day. So what does Jesus do anytime he meets somebody who's demon-possessed? Y'all know what he does. He casts the demon out, which caused quite a commotion. Anytime there's a demon cast out in a crowd, it kind of draws attention to itself, right? Well, he casts this demon out, which gets the attention of the people who he's hiding from, those folks who want to kill him, remember them? So they show up. What do? They start to argue with Jesus some more. Again, so much for laying low. After they argue with him for a while, does this ever happen to you? Like, do you ever have somebody or somebody's just want to argue with you for a while? Holy cow. He's got to be worn out by this point, right? So what happens next, that same day, his family comes looking for him. Now his family, do y'all remember this? His family has been telling everybody at this point that Jesus, this is a direct quote, y'all, is out of his mind. So they come looking for him. They knock on the door, the text says. They're going to take him home and straighten him out. Then they'll give him back to the world. Don't raise your hands. You ever have your family come and they're going to straighten you out? Even Jesus had family trouble. So that's the day. Like when the text says that same day, that's the day that is referred to. What a day. Now at the end of that day, the scripture says Jesus is in a house. Remember the first line says he came out of the house. Now, I don't think there's any throwaway words in the gospel. I think there's meaning hidden under every letter. And so I take house to be a symbol word for solitude. So at the end of that day, Jesus is in the house. He's finally gotten off alone to take a break, to be quiet with God. He's in the house, meaning he's retreated into the confines of his own heart to rest with the Father whose love sustains him. Can you feel that rest? Isn't that good? Jesus can't stay put for long. Y'all knew that. Jesus can't stay put for long. So after a while, he goes out of the house, the text says, and he sits beside the sea. Now, if the house is inside, the sea is outside. You see, sea is a symbol word for the outside world. The love that sustains and restores Jesus also draws him back out into the world, into the midst of the people, so that he can give away that which has been given to him. The restoring love of God. Because that's what love does. Love refuses to be held and kept to oneself. Love always demands to be released and given away. Love refuses to be kept in the pantry of our own hearts. If you find yourself feeling good and wanting to keep that feeling to yourself, it is not love. It might be sentimental, it might be some emotional feeling, but it is not love. Love always demands to be given away. So when he gets back out into the world, back to the sea, as it were, Jesus decides to tell the crowds that have now gathered around him about his day. He's going to describe that day. Now, had it been me and had I had his day, I would have said, "You're not going to believe these people I have been around all day. Lord, give me a break." And then I would have rolled my eyes and told some unflattering stories about all the people that I encountered that day. I'm not proud of that, but that is what I would have done, not Jesus. He tells a parable which illustrates a simple fact. And the fact is this: there are all kinds of people in this world, and God scatters his love on every one of them. You got friends who steal sometimes. You got sick folks around you with withered limbs. You got demon-possessed people who seem beyond help around you sometimes. Sometimes, says Jesus, you got folks who are so mad at you, baby, they want to kill you. And that's okay. Jesus says that's okay. Because God sows seeds of love on all types of soil. I do too, says Jesus, and I want you to follow me. Come out of your house. Come down to the sea and love these people, all kinds. So an old friend of mine named Walter could do this, love all kinds of people as well as anyone I've ever known. Walt and I got to know each other because we ran a little homeless shelter together down in East Tennessee where I lived for a while. Walter lived in the residential recovery shelter, so he was with the guys all the time, day and night. And one time, we had a young guy come to us to the shelter straight from a 12-year stretch in prison. And shortly after he came to us, this young man got so mad at Walter one day that he got me to the side and he said, Father Hendree, I hate to tell you this, but I think I'm going to kill Walter. Right. I didn't know how to respond to that. I'll never forget it. We were at a summer concert, me and this young man. We're standing outside under this really nice pavilion downtown in our little town. We were just a stone's throw from this little creek that ran beside our little church. And he said that to me. Picturesque evening. He walks up and says, Father Hendree, I think I'm going to kill Walter. I said back to him, because I didn't know anything else to say, I said, really? And he, isn't that enlightened? He said, yes. And I looked at him. No, and he was very serious. And I said, well, let's not do that. That's what I said. Let's not do that. I just don't think that's a good idea. And he said to me, well then, I need to go back to prison. And I said, really? This is years ago. I said, really? He said, yeah. And he was quiet for a beat. And I was too. And then I was looking at him. He's a tough guy, real tough guy. And I saw the tears sort of brimmed in his eyes. And I could see that he was working. Those tears were not going to roll over the lip of his eyelids. He was so mad. He was kind of trembling. You ever see somebody like that? You ever been like that? Just kind of trembling. When he finally spoke, he said this. He said, Father Hendree, I know how to live. I know how to live in prison. I do not know how to live out here. All I know is I'm going to take Walter's head off. I'm so mad at him. And I said, okay. I said, I hear you. Right? I said, I hear you. You know, most people just want to be seen and heard. And for some, I just said, I hear you, buddy. I tell you what. Could you just not kill Walter today? And not go back to prison today? Let's just get through today and on into tonight, and then let's talk again tomorrow. And he looked at me, he's dead serious. He said, I don't know if I can do that, but I promise you I'll try. Now, I felt like I had to tell Walter the guy wanted to kill him. Just seems like kind of news you should share. When I did tell Walter, he wants to kill you. You know what Walter did? He laughed. Not in a condescending way, not in a rude way or anything like that. He just sort of laughed to himself. And he says, he wants to kill me. He said, well, Hendree, that's okay. That's okay. I'll talk to him. And I said, you will? So you'll just go straight to him and talk to him. And I said, are you nervous? Because when people want to kill me, I get nervous about talking to him. He laughed again. He said, no, I'm not nervous. I said, why are you not nervous? He said, I know how he feels. I said, you do? He said, yeah, I know how he feels. You see, he's just barely sober, Father Hendree. He hadn't had anyone in his whole life truly to love him. Or care about him. Probably at all, but definitely not in a deep way. Then Walter said this. He said, you got to understand, Father Hendree, he's just rocky soil. And that's okay, because I am too. We'll do what we can for him, said Walter. We'll love him, and God will lead us. God will lead us. That's what he said. And the man didn't kill Walter. You know? It got me thinking. What Walter said got me thinking. There's all kinds of people in this world, y'all. And everybody's a different kind of soil. It got me thinking. You know, maybe everyone is exactly where they should be on the way to where they will be next. Everybody I know is this magnificent little work in progress. There are all kinds of people in this world. And the sower sows seeds of love on every one of them. And so should we. Doesn't that sound like fun? Wow. Amen.